wasn't always easy with Carl, my ex-husband, and you. Can you talk a little bit about the evolvement of that relationship a little bit?
It was interesting because Carl came back kind of once he found out that you and I were really serious. And I know he felt like he was being replaced.
Yeah. Remember we actually sat at Panera and drank coffee with Carl and then his second wife, and we would problem solve and create together. I remember talking to Carl a few years after that, and he was like, I can't believe that God kind of wove this whole sort of thing together. What mistakes do you think that you made, or what things do you think that you have learned that you could offer wisdom for kind of the next generation of step parents?
I would say probably the biggest thing is...
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Raising the Next Gen podcast. I'm Pastor Angie Larson, and I just am always honored that you're tuning in and joining the conversation. Today, I invited somebody who's pretty special to me to come and talk about what it means to be a step parent. I think that step parenting, I have never been a step parent, but I have watched step parenting, and step parenting is it's a complicated but beautiful dance to get to love kids. So I brought my husband. Everybody, introducing Ryan Larson. Ryan, say hi to our listeners.
Hi.
Yeah, well, great. Ryan and I got married over 20 years ago. And when we got married, I was the mother of two children, ages 2 and 6. And really the big question everybody wants to know the answer to is, Ryan, what were you thinking dating a single mom?
Some could say that I wasn't.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, I would love to hear more about your step parenting journey. So,
Sure.
how you kind of came in to get to know the kids. What made you sort of say yes to being open to dating a single mom, and share with our friends listening what that was like for you.
Honestly, it was rather natural, which is a little bit odd to say, but I am the second oldest cousin on one side of my family and the oldest cousin on the other side of the family. And I have two cousins that are the exact same ages as our older two kids.
Yeah.
And I had just been hanging out with them a month or so before you and I met.
Yeah.
So I've been around younger kids kind of my entire life and have enjoyed hanging out with all of them. And so that's where I say I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
Because they were the same age as other people in my family.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a little bit of a natural progression.
Yeah. I remember when we met, telling you, we were young, we were 27 years old, and being like, and I have kids. Like that's a real thing. And they come with me. We're a package deal.
Right.
And do you remember the first time that you met the kids actually?
It was dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting dinner. We had dinner over at my house, and it was your sister and my dad and Chase and Mackenzie. I actually think that maybe it was Ash Wednesday for some reason.
I think so.
And
I think
then
you're remembering that right.
we just had sort of a little family dinner. I don't know, my mom wasn't there, but we had a little family dinner, and just to see sort of how that would go kind of with the kids.
Yeah.
We didn't introduce you as anything more than just like my friend Ryan.
Right.
But it clearly, obviously developed sort of into more of a relationship. Now that you've kind of looking back on all of that time, what are some of the greatest lessons that you have kind of learned and held, and how can you coach other people who are into a step parenting sort of journey?
One of the things that I remember it was kind of a rule that you and I both set down, which was that first and foremost, the relationship had to be about us and not about the kids.
Yeah.
And that once we started dating, we had to make sure that it was about us. And if us wasn't going to work, really it was on me to be like, this isn't going to work. And I had to take the kids and whatever relationship I had with them out of it.
Yeah.
And the other part of it too is, coming in, I don't know. They already had a dad.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to be their dad.
Right.
So it was really, honestly, and in a lot of regards, it was a lot of fun because I could just be the one hanging out with them and helping them through life or with homework or whatever it was, and not to say that I wasn't there as a parental person.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I didn't need to come in as anybody other than who I was
Right.
in it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you did really well that surprised me, honestly, still does, is that you did hold them sort of lightly a little bit.
I had to.
Whereas I kind of was a little bit more of a firm hand when it came to discipline and regimen and, get your shoes and you let me parent them. And then you just sort of were this support person in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few times where you had to like come down on them, but it was only after
Well,
you'd had in a relationship for years. You had a lot of kind of time and rapport there.
Yeah, and it's not to say that I wasn't there telling them, I guess guiding parenting in a way of just like, you're a good human, you need to be a good human, kind of, like I had to take a different approach with the parenting, and knowing that I was coming into that relationship, I did have to hold them like open-handedly, like a bird's in there, because if I squeezed them too hard, I knew that they were just going to run.
Right. Yeah. Nope. Just to be able to sit there and say kind of, I love you, sort of with this compassion and this energy. And
yeah, like I'm not here to control or to step in or to take over.
Yeah.
Being, I'm not here to take the spot of your dad. I'm here to support and love you, and that's it.
And show up at your soccer games,
Right.
and tuck you into bed, and choir concerts, and all the things that we've done. I think it would be helpful for our friends listening. It wasn't always easy with Carl, my ex-husband, and you. Can you talk a little bit about the evolvement of that relationship a little bit?
It was interesting because Carl came back kind of once he found out that you and I were really serious. And I know he felt like he was being replaced.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of emotions going on with that. And we just had to, you and I really had to just kind of keep, stand strong.
Yeah.
And not cave or not change who we were or how we were parenting with the kids, even when getting barraged by, Carl and all the emotions he was going through and everything that, because we didn't, but we also, the relationship wasn't there with you and Carl before. So it wasn't something that we could necessarily sit down and just talk it through.
No.
And it did start off really, really contentious.
Yeah.
But it evolved over the years into something kind of amazing.
Lovely. I know.
Yeah. Like it started from where we would, I remember we'd go to Panera Bread and get coffee and have to hash out
whatever custody or school issues or all the things.
And then by the time, in Mackenzie's graduation, Carl and Chase and I are sitting in our kitchen drinking homebrew together.
Yeah.
Like something that never in a million years would I have thought that would have happened.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was really kind of a beautiful sort of God thing. I think the one thing that you helped me do right, I guess, in all of this is that you always offered me what Carl's position must feel like. When he came in and you're like, well, I think he probably feels like I'm stepping in as dad and I'm not stepping in as dad. And I was like, okay, that's a really empathic response. And guiding me as your wife, who had emotions involved in this previous marriage. I think what you did is you helped me sort of see perspective, and then to just maintain our kind of, we're just going to be calm. We're going to handle this with kindness and compassion. But what I think you did that was so such a gift to our family is that you never elevated it. That you always, whatever I was feeling, you didn't like say, oh, we're going to take it to the next level. You just always like, okay, well, he's probably feeling like this. And so maybe we can offer some compassion or some time, or even maybe it's like another dinner with the kids this week or whatever that looks like. Like he just wants time with his kids. Let's just honor and do that. And then to watch how this relationship with Carl, I think because you didn't add fuel to a fire that already existed. We would sit down at Panera and do you remember we actually sat at Panera and drank coffee with Carl and then his second wife, and we would problem solve like whatever the kids were going through, about how we were going to get counseling or get help or tutoring or whatever it was. And then we would actually sit there at Panera and pray together at some point, which was, mind blowing that was ever possible. I remember talking to Carl even later, a few years after that, and he was like, "I can't believe that like God kind of wove this whole sort of thing together." And then to sit there at Mackenzie, Carl and I's second child, her graduation party, and watching just you and Chase and Carl all having this deep, beautiful, light, kind of all at the same time conversation, and his sons from his second marriage are playing in the backyard with our kids, and just to see how this whole thing came full circle. I think that there were some things that you led as a step parent, that were holy and beautiful, for our kids. There are a couple things. I remember the first time Chase called you dad.
Oh, yes.
And that was a really special moment for us.
It was.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the story or should I tell the story?
Well, yeah. So we weren't even married.
I think we were engaged. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be married. That wasn't a question. But we'd gone in to tuck him into bed, and you had stepped out, and I followed after. And then Chase calls from the bedroom. He's like, "Good night, Dad." But it was like subtle enough that he said it quietly enough so that if I didn't respond, he could be like, "Oh, he probably just didn't hear me."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I turned and went back in. I was like, "Good night, son."
Good night, son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I'll never forget that moment. We were both standing in the hallway just crying. Yep. Like I feel like I could cry about it right now. Yeah. And then in turn they chose that moment to call you dad.
Did they?
Chase intentionally chose that. No, I never asked him to do that or anything like that. Then, in turn, I did actually have to hear the kids call their stepmom mom.
Right.
At the other point.
Really hard.
Which is hard, but also I realized that like it goes both ways.
It does.
And you're the person who sort of taught me that, like, all right, if they are choosing this, then they can choose this. If they wanted to call you Ryan their whole life, I think you would have been fine with that too. Mm-hmm. This was what they sort of actively chose at 7 years old.
Yeah.
And then they actively chose to call Melissa, their stepmom, mom, a couple of years later. And I realized, you know what? At some point, they do need a mom over there. Mm-hmm. And at some point, they do need a dad over there. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes there are different kind of emotions that kind of connect with sort of both of those. And they need to be able to have that person to connect with. If I'm not geographically in the area, they need to have a parent that they can connect to.
And I think it was also a way in which they were able to emotionally connect with Melissa.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was a really powerful and important thing for them to sort of be able to do.
Yeah.
In looking back on our 20 years you've step-parented for 20 years now. What mistakes do you think that you made, or what things do you think that you have learned that you could offer wisdom for kind of the next generation of step-parents?
I would say probably the biggest thing was when Chase was in high school. And I saw a lot of myself in how he acted, and it was massively triggering.
Yeah.
For me, to the point where, I mean, he and I would end up yelling at each other.
Yeah.
In the same fashion that my dad and I used to. And I found myself repeating a lot of those same I don't know, mistakes, but ways that I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It's taken a number of years and some therapy for me to come to this realization. And, and Jason and I have talked through it. Yeah. Like, I'm like, I've talked with him about the fact that I'm like, that I did not handle that well.
Yeah.
At all. And we're good. So that's kind of one of the bigger things. I definitely, as as our relationship grew, it became easier to be a dad for them.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point about not escalating things at the start, I think it was a little easier for me because I could kind of come in as almost a third party to the situation. Like there's Carl, there's you, it's Jason McKenzie. And I could just be like, I'm here to help.
Yep.
And not come in like thinking that it needed, and I didn't have like any preconceived notions as to how it was gonna go.
Right. I suppose that's true. I do think that there's some cultural narratives out there where people, they think, all right, we're going to be this instant family. We're going to just combine our families and it's going to be an instant family. Or there's a preconceived notion that, it's just always going to be a struggle, just always going to be hard. And I hear step parents just sort of holding that kind of narrative. But what I think I kind of learned from you is that you actually can intentionally sort of choose how this path is going to use. Sometimes what we have to do is just hold our emotions back and sort of let us articulate what our vision is for how this is. It doesn't have to be a constant struggle, but it maybe also isn't an instant family either. Maybe it looks a little bit different and it has a few extra layers and complications, but that we're able to just sort of pull back and instantly choose. I do think it helps. I'm gonna give this to our listening friends. I think it helps that you really are kind of a calm personality, and you're not the kind of person that just gets a little like matches.
Instantly fired.
You're not. I'm a little more fiery than you are.
Well, that's why we work together well.
You're kind of like the water sign, and I'm the fire sign, and we're kind of like kind of work well there. But I do think that helps, and I think that that's one thing that a step parent could offer, to sit there and say, all right, I'm gonna hold this. I'm just gonna step back and not try and be a parent. Kind of just be another support person in this, almost like a mentor, I suppose, is probably or maybe like an aunt or an uncle, somebody who loves just unconditionally and can kind of be there for you, sometimes to lay down the law if that's necessary, sometimes to call you up if you need to be called up, but then also to be able to just kind of reflect God's love on to these kids that already, they already have some stuff.
They do, and they each have, obviously Jason McKenzie are different people.
Yeah.
But when, the age at which Chase was when you and Carl got divorced, Chase remembers it.
Yeah.
He remembers a lot of that. Mackenzie doesn't remember a time in her life when I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So that fundamentally changes how I interact with them and how they also view the relationship.
Yeah.
My relationship with them and our relationship and the relationship with Carl. And even though they have like the base situation is the same, how they see it and keeping in mind how they started with, what they started with and how they saw things, like is important, because then you have to, then how you address things changes them too.
Yeah, I agree. I think understanding their foundation with empathy and how that looks different for each of those kids. Like if you're step parenting someone who is in their teenage years, they're already going through some stuff just at school. They're bringing all that school stressor home and then into a stressful environment. That's going to have a different approach of step parenting when you walk into that home.
And they're also almost ready to be launched.
Yep, exactly.
So it's like you're definitely not there as someone who's in the process of helping to form them.
Yeah.
You really have to come in and be like,
they're formed.
What do you need?
What do you need? And how can I support and care for you? But give them that autonomy to be able to say, like, what do you need? How can I support and care for you sort of through this whole process and all of those things.
And knowing and keeping in mind too that that child's interactions with their mom or their dad is, especially if, say, it's a teenager whose parents are going through a divorce.
Yeah.
There's already going to be, if when we met and you got divorced was 10 years later and Chase was 16, the dynamic between you and Chase would have been a lot different than it was when he was 6.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself already can add some additional stress into the relationship.
Yeah, I agree. We're getting close to kind of closing up our time today. The one thing I do want to share with our friends listening is, the one thing that I think that I worked in the church. You worked in the church. We're churchy people. We have Jesus as a foundation of our relationship. And one of the things that we did early on that I think maybe really helped us in centering, but we have prayed for my ex since we started before we were married even.
Yeah.
And some of those, for me, I'll be really honest, the relationship has changed and evolved over the years where some of them I was like, okay, God, and be with Carl too. Fine.
Right.
And now, looking back over these decades that we have co-parented with Carl, and now I want such good things for Carl. And,
Oh, yeah.
And I know that you do too. And I love that at Mackenzie's graduation, at Chase's wedding, we're able to just sit there and have fun with Carl and Carl's family and Carl's sisters and Carl's other sons from his second marriage and all the things, and to watch our son break it down on the dance floor with his brother's other half siblings and just have this incredible, beautiful time. And I do think that the fact that you were willing to pray that prayer with me helped a foundation for kind of how that relationship has evolved and moved over these 20 plus years. And so friends listening, I really want to encourage you, even if it is just a little like, all right, God, be with my ex's wife, be with my ex's husband,
Right.
whatever that looks like. But then maybe ask God to soften you, because there were some places that I needed softening and I needed more empathy than I had. And I'm so grateful that you were able to kind of help me work through my things around that too.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it too about, praying for your ex is our ex.
Our ex. I know.
Is that in a way it allowed us to relinquish the need to try and feel or try and control the situation.
I agree.
Because there's only so much we could do. And so the other part of it is like, all right, God,
you're just going to have to do it, God.
You do you. I got nothing more.
I think life would be a lot better for like, okay, God, you do you.
Right.
And I'll just do this. I agree. So, Ryan, my love, thank you for being willing to kind of share our step parenting journey. And friends and listeners, for Raising the Next Gen, guys, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it because our kids are worth it. And so whatever we can learn and digest, and just if you can take one little nugget and apply it to your step parenting or apply it to your relationship with your ex-partner or your spouse. These are just little things to kind of help us guide this next generation, because we want good things for our kids. Everybody wants good things for our kids. And if we can be slightly better adults, then that passes on to our kids. Thanks for being the best step parent.
Well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, I agree. Friends, thanks so much for joining us. I want, if you have a person in your family who is on a step parenting journey or considering one, maybe consider liking and sharing this. Please subscribe. We are so glad that you're here.